Okay, so in this video, I want to introduce you to something called Logitech Capture. And this video is really intended for anyone who wants to get up and running quickly with their Lightboard without the need to learn OBS Studio. And while OBS Studio is very powerful, I know that learning your way around it can be a little bit intimidating for many people. So Logitech Capture offers you a little bit of a simpler way to get up and running and presenting and teaching or whatever you're doing with the Lightboard. So I'm actually recording this portion of the video using Logitech Capture, and I've got a PowerPoint also running in another window. And using Logitech Capture, I can set one image as myself with my webcam view, with my Lightboard. And Logitech Capture has the ability to flip the image, which is sort of the basics of what we need when we use the Lightboard. But I can also switch between scenes. So in OBS Studio, we create scenes that have sort of anything we want. In Logitech Capture, it comes with 6 preset scenes. So scene 1 is you, your webcam view. Well, you can set it up that way, so it's you and your webcam view. I can switch to scene 2, which is the PowerPoint that I have running. This is an engineering PowerPoint that I had on my computer. I can switch to scene 3, which is an insert of my webcam view with the Lightboard inside my PowerPoint, and you can see that this isn't laid out the greatest for me, but you could structure your PowerPoint slides so that this view would work. You can also reverse it so that the PowerPoint slides are sort of inside your Lightboard, and this might be better for many people presenting. And you can also move, right? So you can also move this window around. So that previous scene and this scene are the only ones where you can move the image, and you can also resize it. So that could come in handy. There's 2 more scenes. Scene number 5 is sort of a split screen between you and your PowerPoint. But notice that I can't do the fancy stuff that I do in OBS, where here I sort of disappear behind my PowerPoint slide, whereas in OBS I can remove the background color and interact with my content. But if you don't need that level of fanciness, then this might very well suit your purpose. Anyway, the last scene is just sort of the reverse, where we flip the PowerPoint slide and the Lightboard. So that's a quick little intro of what Logitech Capture can do. I should note that you do need to be using a Logitech camera to use the Logitech Capture software, but it automatically turns on a virtual camera so that if you go into Zoom or Teams, you can select the Logitech Capture as your camera, and you can teach in Zoom or in Teams just as you do using OBS Studio when you activate the virtual camera. So one thing Logitech Capture doesn't let me do is capture the actual Logitech Capture software window. So I can't actually show you how I'm doing all of these things in Logitech Capture, but stick around if you're interested to learn more. I'll do a recording probably using OBS Studio to capture my Logitech Capture window, and I'll go through the basics of the setup. Okay, so what I've done here is I've switched over to OBS Studio so that I could capture what's happening in the Logitech software. So what you're seeing is the Logitech Capture environment that you see, and this is how you would control your Lightboard teaching or presenting using the Logitech Capture software. And I'll just very quickly show you the settings that I'm using, and these are intended to be something you can replicate and then hopefully very quickly get up and running using your Lightboard. So if you go over here, you should be able to see my cursor, and there's Source 1 is the first button in the menu on the top left, and Source 1, I have that set to my Logitech C920 webcam. And you could set it to other things, but just for now, let's just say we set it to the webcam. And of course, the webcam is the view of you standing at or sitting at your Lightboard. And then there's different options. You can add a border, you could add a filter. I wouldn't worry about any of those. There's a preset. Don't worry about that. If you click on it, you might want to set it to streaming, let's say, and then I would set the priority to the exposure rather than the frame rate. I think that's more important for Lightboard stuff. You can see pan and tilt and zoom. These are, Logitech Capture can take control of the Logitech camera very effectively, but we don't need any of those. Autofocus, I prefer to turn that off with the Lightboard. I have been using auto white balance. I find that works pretty well. There's also image adjustments. I've got it turned off, so I'm using just the defaults, but if you want to turn it on, you can adjust brightness, contrast, sharpness, and your color intensity. So, if I want to give myself a spray-on tan, I can do that. So there is sort of that basic control over the image that you have, which is useful for many people. I've got the anti-flicker turned on. That's the default. There is a Chroma Key, so if you wanted to do green screen or blue screen, you can filter out the background using Logitech Capture. We're not going to use that here, but what we are going to use is under Advanced Settings. If you turn on the Advanced Settings, you're going to use the flip horizontal. So you can see this is the regular image from the webcam, but really what we need is a horizontal flip. So that's in the Advanced Settings. And that's pretty much it and if that's all you wanted to do, you're ready to use the Lightboard. And Logitech Capture automatically starts the virtual camera. So if you go into Zoom or Teams, you should see Logitech Capture show up as a video source. If you're using Teams or Zoom, I'd also recommend that you mute the sound in Logitech Capture and just use the sound in Zoom or in Teams. And while we're here, I'll just show you the other source and how we set it up. And if you click on the number 2 in the upper left-hand corner, I have the number 2 source set to my display. And as you may know, I'm a bit of a monitor nerd. I have 3 monitors hooked into this computer, but on my display number 3, I'm actually showing a PowerPoint slide. And if you click on the down arrow, you can actually click all of the different things that you could set as an input for that second source. So you can see here's the PowerPoint program. I could just do the PowerPoint slideshow. I could actually do OBS. I don't know what would happen if I press that. It might break my computer. Blue is the software that's running my microphone. But anyway, we'll just stick with display 3 for now. And it just so happens display 3 is my PowerPoint. The other thing we'll click on, just again while we're here, is the little camera icon. And this lets me change some of the settings. So for instance, the resolution on my camera, I've got it set to 1080p. You might want to, well, let me turn myself back on here. You might want to set this to, maybe 720. 720 might be a little bit easier on your bandwidth and on your computer. Logitech Capture will tell you if you're dropping frames, meaning that your computer's not able to keep up with whatever you're trying to do. So I have had that happen. So I tend to run it in 720 if I'm actually using Zoom or Teams as well. You can also set the frames per second. For teaching, 24 frames per second or 25 seems to be enough for me. And there's other settings in there you don't really need to worry about. There's another button where you can set your audio input and audio output. And as I mentioned, I usually mute the audio in Logitech Capture and just use the audio in Teams or in Zoom. This is transitions. You can set transitions between the scenes. And then the Alt is the secret to sort of hotkeys. So these Alt keys are hotkeys that let you do live switching between the different scenes. And you can see I was clicking here before. That's scene 1, which is source 1. Scene 2 is source 2. Scene 3 is, the combination. you get the idea. I think I like scene 4, really scene 4 and scene 1, I think, are probably the best for most people using the Lightboard. So anyway, that's pretty much it. The good thing about Logitech Capture is that it sort of takes you through sort of the setup sequentially. So if you wanted to start with the buttons at the top and go through and change all of the settings to what I suggested in this video, you should be ready to go to use your Lightboard in very short order, and it eliminates some of the complications of having to learn OBS Studio. So anyway, I hope that video is helpful to get you started with your Lightboard, and good luck.